Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Hoş geldiniz. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back and welcome to Ankara and welcome back to the plenary stage of the NATO Summit Defense Industry Forum. We are also broadcasting live, so welcome to those of you who are joining us now online. I'm Maria Ramos. I'm a television news anchor for Turkey's international news channel, TRT World, and I'm also a master of ceremonies today. It's such a pleasure to be with you here today for the NATO Summit Defense Industry Forum. This morning, as so many of you heard, the NATO Secretary General and the Deputy Secretary General made a series of important announcements. And they demonstrated how the alliance is uniting, innovating, and also delivering on production capacity and also on the capabilities that matter the most. And you can read all about these announcements on the NATO website and also, of course, in the press. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an amazing and very rich afternoon ahead for you today. And we have gathered here heads of state, ministers, CEOs from a very wide range of industries. And they will be sharing how NATO is working to deliver on its commitment to rapidly ramp up defense industrial production and innovation across the alliance. And before we begin, please, phones on silent. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start. Please join me in welcoming to the stage the Minister of National Defense of Turkey, Yashar Guler. Excellency, the stage is yours.
Sayın Cumhurbaşkanı Yardımcım,
Your Excellency,
Sayın
Mr.
Genel
Vice
Sekreter,
President, Mr.
Sayın
Secretary General,
Bakanlar, değerli
Honorable
komutanlar,
Ministers, distinguished
savunma
commanders,
sanayinin değerli
esteemed
temsilcileri ve
representatives of defense
kıymetli konuklar,
industry, and dear
sizleri
guests,
saygıyla
I
selamlıyorum.
greet you all with utmost respect.
NATO Savunma Sanayi Forumu vesilesiyle
It's a
sizlerle
great
bir arada
pleasure to be with
bulunmaktan
you on the
büyük bir
occasion of NATO
memnuniyet
Defense
duyuyorum.
Industry Forum today.
Sayın Cumhurbaşkanı
Your
Yardımcım,
Excellency,
saygıdeğer
Mr. Vice
konuklar,
President, esteemed
NATO
guests,
zirvesi kapsamında
at this
düzenlenen bu
forum held
forumda
as part of the NATO Summit,
ittifakımızın gelecekteki
we are addressing
caydırıcılık
one of the most
ve
critical
savunma
areas
mimarisini şekillendirecek
that will shape the future deterrence and defense architecture of our alliance, our defense industrial capacity, our production power, and our innovative capabilities. The security environment we are facing today reminds us of a very clear fact. In order to protect their sovereignty, rights and interests, countries must have a strong state structure, effective diplomacy, deterrent military capacity, and a sustainable defense industry ecosystem. In this context, NATO's collective defense approach, solidarity, and the determination to act together are more important today than ever before. The production capacity, ammunition stocks, platform modernization, sustainable supply chains, and an adaptive defense industrial ecosystem to support that determination are equally vital. Indeed, the war in Ukraine has shown how decisive the pace of ammunition supply, unmanned systems, air and missile defense, electronic warfare, and rapid innovation are in modern warfare. Recent developments around the Strait of Hormuz have once again demonstrated that the security of lines of communication and supply chain management are now an integral parts of defense planning. Therefore, the fundamental question for all of us is, how quickly can we turn our commitments into real capabilities? This is precisely one of the main objectives of the Ankara summit, allies demonstrating the increase in their defense investments, meeting new capability targets, expanding production capacity, and building a stronger, more innovative, and more resilient transatlantic defense industrial base. With this mindset, Turkey has brought its domestic and national industrial production capacity and engineering infrastructure to a level that attracts attention globally. Today, we possess significant capabilities across a wide spectrum, from land, naval, and air platforms to unmanned systems, electronic warfare capabilities, and air defense solutions. Indeed, dozens of military vessels are being built simultaneously in our shipyards. Turkey has a level of naval platform production capacity which meets her own requirements and also contributes to allies and partners. Regarding the modernization of our land forces, the serial production phase of our Altay main battle tank is a concrete demonstration of the technological and industrial level we have reached in armored land systems. In the air domain, the Kaan program shows that Turkey has entered a new league in developing high-technology combat air platforms. Ammunition production is also one of the most critical issues for the alliance. We have rapidly increased our 155mm ammunition production capacity in recent years and became an ally delivering concrete results in this field. Through Roketsan's new production and integration investments, we are significantly expanding our missile and munitions production capacity. The investments of our companies such as Aselsan and Havelsan in radar, electronic warfare, communications, command and control, software, simulation, and artificial intelligence-enabled systems are advancing our defense industrial capacity both in scale and quality. Additionally, we also attach great importance to NATO's 5% defense investment pledge, because it is also a concrete expression of the alliance's will to strengthen deterrence, scale up defense production, and deliver the capabilities we need on the ground in a timely manner. Your Excellency, Mr. Vice President, distinguished guests, the wars and conflicts have demonstrated that success on the battlefield depends both on existing stocks and the capacity to learn, produce, and adapt quickly. From drone technologies to electronic warfare, from ammunition production to software updates, the shorter the distance between the troops, engineers, entrepreneurs, and decision makers is, the greater the effectiveness on the battlefield becomes. Therefore, our task is to build this culture of cooperation in peacetime. Once a crisis emerges, it may be too late to establish production lines, build supply chains, or develop common standards. The preparation must begin today. Our call is clear. Let us turn commitments into capabilities. Let us turn resources into production. Let us turn industrial strength into deterrence. And let us strengthen the security of our alliance, not merely with words, but with concrete capacity that has real effect on the ground. In this context, we hope that the meetings and assessments of this forum will result in real projects, joint ventures, production arrangements, and capability outputs. With these thoughts in mind, I once again greet you all with the utmost respect and thank all participants of this magnificent event. Thank you.
Çok teşekkür ederim, Minister Yashar Guler. Thank you very much indeed for your comments there. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we continue. Please join me now in giving a very warm welcome to the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte. The stage is yours, Secretary General.
Thank you, Maria, Mr. Vice President, Excellencies, dear friends. A good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the NATO Summit Defense Industry Forum. As we are in the middle of the World Cup, let me start with a little football analogy. And I do this with a heavy heart, as the Netherlands, my country, has been kicked out, and also Curaçao, which is part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, has been kicked out of the World Cup. But still, I maintain the football analogy. Because there is something I believe football teaches us. No team wins because of one brilliant player. We need a goalkeeper, you need the defenders, the midfielders, the strikers. And yes, everyone notices the player who scores the winning goal. But behind every successful player and team out on the pitch are many others on the bench and behind the scenes. The coaches, the trainers, the analysts, the people making sure everything works. Everyone matters, no one wins alone. NATO is much the same. It takes a whole team to deter and defend most effectively. Our political leaders set the direction. Our armed forces are on the pitch every single day. And you, our defense industry, provide the strength behind the team. The equipment, the innovation, the production capacity. To have power, resilience and endurance, we all need to be fully engaged in the game, working together for our shared security. You need us at NATO to tell you what our militaries need. That is the demand. And we need you to turn those requirements into real capabilities. That is the supply. That is why it is so crucial that we continue to build cooperation between NATO and industry. I have seen it grow and develop since I took over in 2024. I visited factories and facilities across the alliance, including here in Turkey. I've spoken with company leaders, engineers and workers on the factory floor. I've seen the innovation. I've seen the opportunity. And I see our partnership in action right here at this forum. This is what teamwork looks like. And this is a team that knows how to score. Last year at the NATO summit in The Hague, allies made important commitments to invest 5% of GDP in defense, to accelerate production and to speed up innovation. 1 year later, we can already see the results. Last year alone, European allies and Canada spent nearly 20% more on defense than the year before. An extra $139 billion. Looking at 2025 and 2026 together, it is an increase, again, Canada and the Europeans, of $258 billion, more than 250 billion. And that's just the additional investment. So basically, one thing is clear. The money is there, and much more is coming. But this cash must be put to work. It needs to purchase capabilities, to actually deter and defend. Governments and the defense industry are laying the path by investing in expanding defense production. Over the last year alone, we have seen $37 billion invested in just boosting our defense industrial base itself. Again, Think about this number, 37 billion to boost our defense industrial base. So larger factories, new production lines, more capacity. In fact, there is enough additional production space to cover more than 2,000 football pitches. And just this morning at the forum, substantial new contracts were signed and more big announcements were made. Altogether worth tens of billions of dollars and growing. That means more air defense systems and strike capabilities, more satellite communications, more ammunition, more drones and counter-drone systems, and increased resilience and preparedness. According to our projections, by next year, the alliance will have the capacity to produce around 4 million artillery shells annually. Almost twice as many as last year. That's scale. So yes, we have made real progress. We are moving in the right direction. The strategy is clear. But the match is far from over. And to win it, we need all team members to pull their weight. Do more, faster, together. We don't have the luxury of time. We need capabilities now to ensure we remain ready. The security situation demands it. Russia. Russia is pouring almost half of its national budget into its war machine. Can you imagine? Almost 50% of what Russia spends is put into the war machine. Its defense industry is working around the clock. And not only the defense industry, also the rest of the industrial base in Russia is supporting the war effort. China continues to modernize its armed forces and expand its nuclear capabilities without transparency. North Korea continues to expand its nuclear program and supply Russia. And while recent US action has significantly degraded Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs, we must remain vigilant. These countries are increasingly working together. And that should concern us all. Because I assure you, they do not have our best interests in mind. So that's what we are up against. That's the reality we face. To meet the challenge, we need a transatlantic defense industrial revolution. The hum of machinery must become a roar. Now, that sounds dramatic, but it can be done. Governments have their role to play. They must continue placing long-term orders and signing contracts. Today is an excellent example of that kind of contracts we need to put on the table. More of that, please. We need a bonfire of red tape in our procurement and in our cross-border regulation. Both government and industry must continue investing in production capacity. Governments must also create the conditions for industry to expand and cooperate. Factories need reliable energy, electricity and fuel. They need secure supply chains. And above all, they need skilled people. Engineers, technicians, innovators. At the same time, industry across all of the nations represented here must be ready to take more risk. The demand is there and you know it. We are being much more open about what we need. At the summit, we are releasing publicly for the first time a consolidated demand signal outlining our requirements. We will help ensure you know the demand and understand it. And you also know the market is growing. Allies will continue to invest in defense. This is not an anomaly, this is a trend. Lastly, no single nation and no single industry can power an industrial revolution alone. But the good news is that we don't have to, because we have NATO. We combine the assets, the technologies and the industries of 32 countries across Europe and North America. That's incredibly powerful. We have an unequal pool of talent, creativity and expertise out there. And many are right here in this room today. And we are even stronger when we work together with our partners. With Ukraine, of course, which continues to innovate at incredible speed. It now boasts an unparalleled drone ecosystem. And we are creating opportunities for more industrial cooperation and co-production with Ukraine. We must seize this opportunity. We are also building industrial cooperation with the European Union and countries in the Indo-Pacific. I've seen the Japanese defense minister and others here in this room today. Welcome. Because when we combine our efforts, we produce more, we innovate faster, and we strengthen all our security. So today, we are on the cusp of the transatlantic defense industrial revolution. I'm asking you to take a leap and show our people that we are ready and capable to protect them anywhere at any time. And show Russia and all those watching today that the transatlantic defense industrial base is mobilizing with purpose. Not in anger, but for our collective security. So let me finish where I started. Winning teams prepare. They train, they invest, they build trust, and they keep improving. That's exactly what we must continue to do. The partnership between NATO and industry is the winning one. So now, let's deliver even more, even faster, and together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we continue. Thank you so much, Secretary General Mark Rutte, and thank you for that analogy also with regards to football, very important. All right, for our next keynote, it's a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome to the stage the Vice President of Turkey, Cevdet, Yilmaz. Excellency, the floor is yours. Welcome to you.
NATO'nun saygıdeğer Genel Sekreteri Sayın Mark Rutte, Çekya Başbakanı, değerli bakanlar, NATO üyesi,
distinguished representatives of the allied countries, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all and greet you all wholeheartedly and with respect. Welcome to Ankara. Welcome to NATO Summit Defense Industry Forum, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, 22 years ago, we hosted the NATO Summit in Istanbul back then. And today, we have been gathered together in the capital city of Ankara, which is considered to be the heart of the defense industry in Turkey. So we are absolutely delighted to have you in Ankara in this very important summit of our alliance. Ladies and gentlemen, as the alliance itself and allied countries, we have been up against some important global developments. We will have the chance to evaluate and assess all these developments in addition to the challenges and tests that we are up against. We are going to discuss how and what kind of steps we are going to take all together to combat those challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, in this forum today and in the Leaders Summit tomorrow, we are going to see that the alliance is taking a new step into NATO 3.0. So there will be fairer burden sharing in the alliance thanks to NATO 3.0. And the progress that we achieved shows us that in the face of the geopolitical challenges that we have today, we need to build a stronger European pillar in the alliance. And last year in The Hague, we took important decisions, including increasing the defense spending. And these commitments have been assumed duly by almost all of the allied countries. An approach to defense spending has been transformed on the side of all of the allied countries. And the test today is to turn the increased defense spending into concrete capabilities and to make sure that we create the industrial base in order to achieve our commitments. This is why we need to ramp up the production capacities in harmony with each other. In this respect, let me also quote the statement from Mr. Rutte. He always says that from Arkansas to Ankara. So let me repeat what he said. From Arkansas to Ankara, we need to work together. Under the strong leadership of His Excellency, President of the Republic of Turkey, we have been trying to understand the current threat landscape, and accordingly, we've been taking steps in order to progress and advance our defense industry in Turkey. Turkey is one of the defense exporters around the globe. We are ranking number 11 around the globe when it comes to the defense exporters. And hopefully we are going to rank one of the top 10 countries very soon. So hopefully Turkey will be in the first league if we continue with the football analogy. Our defense industry has been going through some comprehensive transformation, and our production mix include air, land, maritime, cyber and space areas. All of them are included in our portfolio. As a result of our extensive capabilities, the localization rate of the Turkish armed forces is more than 80% nowadays. And for the allied countries, Turkey is being a source of supply, reliable supply, and a source of reliable project making. And our defense investments expanded $11 billion. And our exportation, more than half of our exportation goes to the NATO allied countries and the European Union countries. And Turkey has been receiving lots of praise because of its UAVs and combat UAVs today, from electronic warfare to combat fighters, from fifth generation combat jet to strike capabilities. We have the state-of-art technologies, and we can develop state-of-art technologies in all of these areas. 5 of the top 100 defense countries around the globe come from Turkey. So this point that we've achieved in the area of defense industry is no coincidence. We've been progressing thanks to the collaboration between public sector and the industry in Turkey. And the industrial companies have been involved and engaged in this whole process from the beginning in Turkey. This is why we are successful today. Today, Mr. Secretary General has made lots of important announcements, and he also announced the widespread strategy of NATO towards the defense industry. This strategy is well adopted in Turkey. Resilience of defense industry is not only something to be dealt with by the governments and companies today. We need to collaborate with the universities, we need to collaborate with the finance sector and the workforce. All of the layers of the society need to be involved in this whole process, we believe. And this whole structure depends on human power, manpower, and the average age of the workforce in defense industry is 34 years in Turkey, and half of the engineers are young women in Turkey, which tells us something. It tells that we own the future thanks to the young workforce that we have in Turkey. One of the most important pillars of a strong defense industry is to have this skills pool required. This is why we are going to enhance and improve our skills pool and workforce. And we've been employing more than 100,000 skilled workforce. We are ramping up our investments, and we're also focusing on civilian industries as well, with all the technological innovations that we're focusing on. And this is how the defense industry is also contributing to economic development and social welfare. I was the welfare minister for long years, so I can say that defense industry contributes to both economic development and social welfare in general. Speaking from experience, I can say that. Similarly, artificial intelligence is what we have been focusing on, because technology has the game-changing capability. This is why we need to keep a close eye on the artificial intelligence. We've been focusing on research and development as an indispensable part of this whole innovative process. On the other hand, for the development of the defense industry, we attach great importance to international collaboration. And Turkey is not limiting its collaborative actions to exportation only. We are engaged in joint production, joint design and development processes with the allied countries. Last week, His Excellency, President of the Republic of Turkey, explained to the allied parliamentarians that we need to remove the barriers to collaboration in the area of defense industry, and trade restrictions in the area of defense between the allied countries should be lifted altogether. And if we want to increase the military readiness of the alliance, if you want to improve the collective defense in the alliance, then we need to overcome all these meaningless, senseless barriers and the sanctions. This is why all the bilateral restrictions between the allied countries should be lifted, and Turkey, which is contributing greatly to the European pillar of NATO, should be able to contribute to the defense and security initiatives in European Union and elsewhere. Otherwise, the progress in the development capacity will go down and the production cost will go up. So if you want to see a stronger, more resilient Euro-Atlantic system, then technological capabilities and operational experience should be there in a strategic architecture that we're all involved in. And Turkey is a strong, reliable country in this architecture, which is prepared to contribute greatly to the improvement of that architecture. Ladies and gentlemen, with this in mind, all the deliberations and discussions that we are going to hold under the forum and during the summit will hopefully be beneficial to the entirety of the alliance. Hopefully your contacts and meetings will pave the way for new collaborative actions. Ladies and gentlemen, the agreements, announcements, discussions that have been taking place since the morning will hopefully contribute to the increased deterrence and defense capabilities on the side of NATO, and will hopefully pave the way for stronger defense collaboration between the allied countries. With this in mind, let me welcome you all and greet you all wholeheartedly and with respect, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ankara and welcome to Turkey once again.
Çok teşekkür ederim Cevdet, Yilmaz.